The scenes out of Afghanistan have been heartbreaking. Desperate people doing whatever they can to flee the country as the Taliban reestablishes control over the capital city and the rest of the country. Some people are calling it a catastrophe. Other people are calling it a nightmare. And MSNBC reporters are calling it a relatively peaceful takeover.
The country is essentially now in the hands of the Taliban for all intents and purposes. They've taken over Kabul. The president, or should I now say the former president of Afghanistan, Ashraf Ghani, has fled the country. The Taliban have taken over the presidential palace. They've renamed the country the Islamic Emirate, taken down the Afghan flag and hoisted up their own colors. And it's been a relatively peaceful, if you like, a process. They haven't had to fire a lot of shots. There hasn't been a lot of bloodshed in Kabul. It was a pretty straightforward takeover for them. They've also taken over the airport. There have been reports of shots fired at the airport, and Taliban fighters are all over the place. But they're not in any sort of clashes with U.S. personnel, although commercial flights have so far been suspended.
That's a lot of whiplash. It's a mostly peaceful takeover of the country, and it's peaceful, and there are definitely shots being fired by the militants who are everywhere, but it's mostly peaceful. Turns out that relatively peaceful takeovers, much like mostly peaceful protests, seem to involve a fair bit of violence. But Joe Biden has doubled down on the strategy. In his first comments since everything that he said wouldn't happen happened in Afghanistan, with the president this week, is it any wonder that Democrats want to ban Donald Trump from ever appearing on a ballot again? MSNBC sees the glass half full. That's the same network, by the way, that called the George Floyd riots mostly peaceful protests with the buildings burning down behind them. Now they're saying this is a relatively peaceful takeover. I suppose as far as takeovers go, it actually is relatively peaceful, meaning, yeah, they're executing lots of people and beheading lots of people, but there's no major battle taking place in Kabul because the Afghan military didn't even fight back. And the American forces were leaving. The political leadership said, pull out of the country. The State Department taking a similarly optimistic view. So the State Department spokesman, Ned Price, is confident in the ability of the United States to impel the Taliban to have an inclusive government.
Additionally, the UN Security Council issued a joint press statement earlier today calling for a new government that is united, inclusive, and representative, including with the full and meaningful participation of women. The Council spoke with one voice to underscore that Afghanistan must abide by its international obligations, including to international humanitarian law, and ensure the safety and security of all Afghans and international citizens.
I'm sure that'll do it. It's done. It's over. I don't know why we spent 20 years in a military occupation in Afghanistan when Ned Price could have just gotten on TV or, and frankly, he might still do this, written a strongly worded letter to the Taliban and said, hey, dear Taliban, to whom it may concern at the Taliban, we want you to elect women to your government. And if you don't, well, we in the international community will be very disappointed in you, Taliban. Okay, so maybe think about that. Taliban, as far as I can tell, completely ignoring the demands of the United States State Department. One CNN reporter observing on the ground, a CNN reporter who is now wearing a hijab because otherwise she'll be killed. She is now wearing the hijab, but she's looking on the bright side. She's saying, sure, these guys seem pretty, they're saying mean things. They don't sound like they're going along with this, but they seem friendly enough.
They're just chanting death to America, but they seem friendly at the same time. It's utterly bizarre.
They're mostly friendly terrorists who want to destroy our country. Mostly friendly, though. And actually, I hate to give credit to CNN, too, but in a way, they do seem kind of friendly. In a way, that's the scariest part, because if you look at the clip, they're saying, oh, death to America. We took over the country. Hey, buddy, Habibi, death to America. Gosh, it's bad. It's bad. It's not looking good. Seems like a contradiction, but There it is. Chanting death to America, but mostly friendly. A takeover of a country, but mostly peaceful. I'm glad you liked that clip. I would strongly encourage you. Go subscribe to the Michael Knowles Show podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts. Just head on over there right now and click subscribe. Then leave a 5-star review. Appreciate that. And then you can get this full episode, which is about the friendly, peaceful Taliban takeover. We'll see you next time.